Hello, my name is Subatra. Even people in London struggle with my name, so we can just call Subi if it's easier for everyone. I come from a fashion brand called Look Retailers, and this presentation is going to be about how we've developed an ethical trade strategy and how we build trust and transparency in our supply chain to deliver the ethical trade strategy. And I hope you find it interesting. So while I'm going through the slides, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Unfortunately, I don't speak any Latvian, so the presentation is going to be in English. And I still hope you all find it useful and interesting. To start with the presentation, I want to talk a little bit about New Look so that you all understand the context and who we are as a brand, and it gives you an overview of the work that we do. So who we are as New Look is a fashion brand, predominantly women's wear, but we also do a small segment of menswear. We have over 40 years of retail experience, mainly in the UK, but we have international stores all over Europe, including we have a few stores in Russia as well. Our first store was opened in 1969 in a southern coastal town called Taunton. Us as a brand, New Look is a very positive, fun, young brand. Our main customer demographic would be a girls age group of 16 to 35, so that's our main customer base. So it's a fast fashion brand with importance on fashionability and trends. We are the largest UK retailer for women's denim. We are the #1 value retailer for women's footwear for the age group of under 35. We've sold over 13 million pairs of shoes in just UK alone. We are the #1 in value for accessories, once again in the under 35 market. We have over 1,100 stores all over the world. Next year we plan to expand to China, so that's going to be exciting. Where we source from. So we talked about the brand, and now the important thing to talk about where we source from, because a lot of things that we do on CSR and ethical trade focuses on the supply chain and where we source from, and different countries have different issues. So the larger ethical trade strategy should impact all the issues in the countries that we source from. Our biggest sourcing comes from China. Then we source from Bangladesh. We do a lot of sourcing in the United Kingdom itself for short lead time products. We source a lot from Cambodia. We source from Turkey, India, Moldova, Vietnam, Romania, and Pakistan. So that's where we source from. I've met a few Latvian suppliers, so hopefully we will start sourcing from Latvia as well in the next few years, and we can add that in the next presentation if I ever come back here. I want to stress about the approach at New Look, which is very different perhaps from other fashion brands. The ethical trade strategy that we develop in New Look is very much based on our suppliers. New Look do not think that we should have a parent-child relationship with our suppliers where we go and tell our suppliers what they should do in terms of corporate social responsibility or responsible sourcing, but it should be a rather equal partnership. And this is how we work in all the other areas as well. So this is how we work in larger supplier management. So to always have an open and honest approach with all our suppliers. So when we go to factories or when we speak to suppliers in different regions, we tell them we know the issues that are there in different regions. For example, in China, long working hours is an issue. Workers work with just one holiday in a whole month. That's a common practice in China. We know that's an issue. So when we go and speak to suppliers, we say these are the issues that we know, and we want to work with suppliers and factories to improve that, rather than go and tell them this is our rule or code of conduct for working hours. So the approach is to have an open and honest approach, to actively manage and help develop our supply base. Once again, here we want to work with our suppliers to develop their own factories, to develop their supply base, because in the long term it helps us. to resolve issues promptly and in a fair and equitable manner, to encourage our suppliers to have the same values back to us. So before we go into the detail of the ethical trade strategy, I want all of you to just raise your hands for a few of these questions, because I want to understand, I want all of us to think about what role we play in the products that we consume, and we all consume clothes. So what role do we play in corporate social responsibility of companies? So if you can raise your hand for each of these questions. How many of you know which brand of clothing you're wearing today? If you can raise your hands. So maybe 10%, okay? How many of you know where your clothes were made? If you can raise your hand. You know where your clothes were? Where? This one that you're wearing, yeah?
I guess the leader is from Malaysia.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the
Okay. Somebody else raised their hand there? From Latvia. Okay. Anybody else know where your clothes were made? Okay. How many of you know what material your clothes were made of? Like, is it cotton? Is it polyester? Is it viscose? If you can raise your hands. Yeah? So, can you perhaps say, anybody else volunteer to say which materials you think your clothes were made of? Okay, then how many of you know who made your clothes? Just some worker in some country, some, abstract person. Here I want to stress that corporate social responsibility is not just for a company. Corporate social responsibility or social responsibility is like democracy. Different stakeholders, if we all play our parts, that's when you have a positive impact everywhere. Otherwise, you can just have programs and projects which might not have positive impact. So as customers, if we don't ask questions, then the different stakeholders, the brands are not going to do their part, the governments are not going to do their parts, and the sourcing countries, different governments are not going to do their parts for workers. So who are the different stakeholders in a fashion brand for corporate social responsibility? For us at New Look, workers are at the center and the heart of any ethical trade program that we do. Then we have customers who buy our products, who care about who are making their clothes and whether it has an environmental impact. Then the suppliers who we work with, at the end of the day, they need to have benefits by working in a better, sustainable way of doing business. And then we have investors. There are investors in companies who care about the ethical trade strategy as well, because for them it's the economic long-term sustainability of business is linked to CSR as well. Then there are NGOs, campaigners and policymakers in different countries who also play a huge role, and they are a stakeholder in this conversation. So at New Look, we did a survey and we found out that 63% of our customers agree that responsibility to ensure that the products are produced in an ethical and environmentally friendly way is important. So most of our customers do care. Then our investors are people who have signed up to the UN principles, so our investors care. Then we have a lot of pioneering NGOs in the UK. I don't know if you've all heard about Labour Behind Label. They have presence in Europe as well. So they are a campaigning organization which fight or talk about workers' issues like living wages, freedom of association, and they have funding from the European Union, so they do a lot of campaigns. Then Ethical Trading Initiative is a big body of tripartite organization of brands, NGOs, and trade unions. So why should a company have an ethical trade strategy? What are the benefits of having a sustainability strategy? To meet the expectations of all the stakeholders. There's then the brand image and recognition that is associated with best practices or even negative practices. If you have a bad practice, let's say somebody finds out that your brand clothing is made in sweatshops and you have that on headlines, immediately your customers are going to associate your brand with a negative impact. So there's a brand reputation value here. Then security of, fluctuation in commodity costs. For example, cotton prices keep going up and down, and then when you work with small traditional organic cooperatives, farming cooperatives, you have a better supply, and then you are able to manage the fluctuations much better. And the same thing, future-proofing your supply chain and your raw materials for all your products, because without your raw materials, you're not going to be able to make clothes in the long run. Then there's, of course, cost savings by investing in green energy, in ethical practices. And then, of course, product differentiation, to talk to your customers and saying there's a feel-good factor, but also then the materials that you use for making your products, you're able to differentiate to your customers. So, what is ethical trading at New Look? This is our definition. Acting responsibly towards the people who make our products by supporting our suppliers in providing good quality jobs. We value the people who make our products and continue to work with our suppliers to improve their working conditions. Like I mentioned before, New Look's approach is always to work with our suppliers to bring positive impact rather than dictating the terms to them to follow our code of conduct. So this is the statement. It's become old now. We have a new statement, but this was our old company statement: creative passion for fashion that drives customer belief and profit. This was our mission statement. And how do we fit CSR into the larger business strategy? Through quality jobs, quality businesses, and quality products. When I say quality jobs, it's quality jobs for all our workers, it's quality jobs for people who work at New Look, it's quality jobs for people who work with our suppliers. And then quality businesses is quality businesses of New Look as well as our suppliers. And at the end of the day, if better CSR practices are there in our factories, we have better products. So now we can talk about how did we develop an ethical trade strategy for a large company. We started with brainstorming and reflecting as a team, what should our ethical strategy look at? What are the issues we should look at? We looked at ideologically where we want to be to where we are today. What would good look like? Let's say we all live in an ideal world. Where should we be? So we brainstormed on that. Then we consulted with our country teams. So we have a lot of global teams who are based in China, Bangladesh, India, and different countries we source from. So working together with them, because they are the people who are in the ground, in the factories, visiting every day, speaking to workers, suppliers, and factories. Then based on all of this, we came up with a list of actions and key performance indicators that will be the core of the ethical trade strategy for New Look. So here to give you a little bit of how we understand the need. Like I said in the beginning, we put the workers at the center of the strategy. So if we put the workers at the center of the strategy, we should ask the workers what they want. It's easy to sit in the head office in London to develop an ethical trade strategy for the workers in your different supply chain, but maybe the workers want something different from what you think they want. So the key focus of our strategy has been speaking to our workers, asking them what is their need. So we did worker interviews in our factories, we went to their homes, we did off-site interviews, so we spoke to over 3,000 workers. We also do audits, so every day we visit factories, we do a complete audits on health and safety checks, speaking to workers, looking at payroll, looking at the factory structure, all the problems that the factories are having, speaking to the factory owners, what problems that they are having to pay minimum wage, different views from the factories. And then we also do a lot of projects, and through doing different projects with factories, we're also able to identify different issues that we find in different countries. So these are the different ways we take as needs from different countries to develop the strategy. Here is one quote from a couple who are working in one of our factories in India. When you keep asking workers what do they want, this is something very common that we keep hearing constantly. It's mainly about their children. So here this worker is saying, my husband and I work in the same factory. We have 2 children in our hometown. We are working hard to raise them and provide a better life for them. I'm working here to get some savings, and I want to open a small shop after several years. Here I should mention that a lot of workers in the garment industry are migrant workers. So if you take countries like China, Bangladesh, or even India, the factories are in and around cities, and workers come from rural villages quite far, and they leave their children behind. And they come to work in factories. The money that they make supports their family in their villages. So for them, most of the workers, it's, providing a good future for their children is what is important. So taking all of this in mind, we developed 6 key behaviors, which are never to lose sight of doing the right thing for the workers, supporting our supplier businesses and support better job for workers, engage with suppliers and monitor progress. So like I said, we don't want to dictate terms, we want to engage the suppliers and work with them to see how they're doing. Be transparent, work with factories to understand their concerns and challenges. So if a factory is having large working hours or they're not able to pay minimum wage, we sit down with them and try and understand why they're having these issues. Is it because they're not doing good production planning? Is it because they're not able to recruit the right workers? Is it because they don't have good HR systems to retain highly skilled workers? So we try to find it through our visits and project consultations. And from that, we build factory management and skills. And then at the end of it, the thing that we constantly remind ourselves at the ethical trade team is to keeping it real. We all know that, we were in the recession and there were difficult ethical trading conditions, so we keep that in context. So any aims that we put is in the context of what commercial market that we're working in. So very similar to the ethical behaviors, these are the ethical objectives which we as a company take. It's not just the ethical trading team, like this one here, which talks about ensure New Look's team, which is the buying, merchandising and design team, and the suppliers understand their role in delivering the ethical trade strategy. So here I just want to talk very quickly about a quote from our CEO. We have a new CEO this year, Anders Christiansen, and he joined from the Bestseller Group. And he says, it's important to our customers, our staff, our suppliers, and our stakeholders, and it makes good business sense for us too. We want to embed ethical trade and sustainability into all aspects of our business. So here's like a journey of what we've done in ethical trade from 1993 to today. We based our ethical aims in 1998 based on the International Labour Organization's ILO conventions. We've come a long way from there. And today, like last year, we won the Good Governance Award for Global Sustainability at TVE. There's a short film. I'll show you the film at the end for which we won the award. So what are our ethical aims, which is based on the ILO conventions? Our ethical aims covers that there should be no forced labor in our factories, in our supply chain. There's good working condition for all our workers, no child labor. Everyone has a decent wage. It should be above minimum wage. In certain countries, we aspire and we do projects to reach living wage. Working hours are under the law. There's no discrimination, no gender discrimination or regional discrimination. All the casual labor workers also should have equal rights as a permanent worker. There's no harsh treatment in the factories. And that, in the end, freedom of association. Even in countries where they don't have large trade union presence, we encourage our factories to have worker committees in place of trade unions so that the workers have a right to collectively bargain with the management. We're not able to do this alone. We do a lot of these in partnerships with various organizations. Better Factories Cambodia is part of ILO. The International Finance Corporation does a lot of projects which we take part in. A lot of consultants and the ETI. So these are some of our partners that we work with. Most importantly, all our projects will not be possible if it wasn't for working with our suppliers and engaging our suppliers as an equal partner. So here I'm just going to briefly touch upon 3 projects that we've been working on in our supply chain. One is our audit program. Our audit program is where our country teams, like I said, we have teams in China, Bangladesh, India, who visit factories every day to identify issues. But while we identify issues, we are also looking at resolving those issues with the factory management, how they can find solutions. The other one is the Factory Improvement Project, which we started in 2010. I'll go into more detail about how the project works, but now we've opened it out to other retailers, and we have funding from the Department of International Development, DFID, from the UK government. So the UK government is funding part of the project. Then we have another project called Banking for Poor, where we open bank accounts for our workers who have very low literacy rate and teach them on financial inclusion and financial literacy. So going back to the Factory Improvement Project, what is the problem? The problem is it's an industry-wide problem. It's not just a problem that New Look faces. Any brand that you probably, international brand who source from these countries, like, anyone that you know in High Street, they all face the same problems because we all source from the same countries. Long working hours is a common problem in garment industry. Example, I would say, is like 320 hours a month with probably just one rest day. In China, you can see this quite often. Low pay in a lot of countries. The countries themselves don't raise the minimum wages because they don't want factories or suppliers or the clients to go to other countries. So the minimum wages are often low in a lot of countries. So the aim of this project was that we wanted to improve wages, but we also wanted to bring down the working hours. So how do we do that? We do that by helping factories develop their own HR framework. We do that through speaking to workers and finding out their needs in different factories. We developed a production incentive scheme. So if a worker is meeting their quota and above, it's making sure they get a production bonus. We pay for industrial engineers and production planners to go and spend time at factories, teaching a factory to do efficient and better production planning. By doing that, a factory improves their cut-to-ship ratio, a factory improves on their wastage and the amount of money that they save. They don't share it with New Look, but they share it with workers. So this is the sort of like a deal that we do with our factories. We say we'll completely fund the project, but then the factory will have to share the benefits with workers. And then there are basic things like not just wages, there are basic things like providing provident fund for all the workers and then free nutrition. If you take countries like Bangladesh, a lot of workers there do not get enough nourishment through their daily life and they can't afford it. So factories provide one big meal and often there is egg or a big portion of meat, so they get their quota of protein. So this is once again part of the project. By being part of the project, the money that they save, then they give it back to workers by giving them a free meal. So like I said, this is now DFID funded, and other brands like Marks & Spencer, Tesco, Sainsbury's and Mothercare have adopted our model, and it's become a big project where we have reached 110 workers in India and Bangladesh, and we've touched about 83,000 workers. So, like I said, once again, at New Look, the focus is always the workers. So we went back, after 2 years of doing this project, went back to workers and asked them whether they found any benefit in these projects. So we once again did a lot of interviews, and here are some quotes from workers. I feel lots of change in this factory in the last 6 months. There's less absenteeism because of attendance bonus. I'm saving the extra money for my daughter's futures and to buy new things for the house. It's helping me through my life. This project not only touches workers, but it touches all the middle management in the factory and supervisors. So here are some quotes from managers. On the first day of the training, I was thinking, why do I, a production planning manager, need to attend a HR module? After attending, I realized it's very important for production people to understand workers and their feelings. I learned how to talk to them and what makes them worried and what helps them to do quality work. Listening to others and working as a team is important. We often see that by involving production managers and supervisors in the HR module, just makes the team spirit in the factory much better. And you can see an effect on the quality of the products, and we have less quality issues from these factories. Here is a worker saying, I'm very excited about the new payroll system that is permanent job. I always send the extra money home. I think I can save more money for the future, and I'm planning to stay with this company for long term. This is a huge benefit for factories because factories often find it difficult in countries like India and Bangladesh to retain workers. After, like, say, there's a festival season when workers go home, they don't come back to the same factory. So it's having all these benefits in the factories, make sure that you get the highly skilled workers wanting to work with your factory rather than another factory. Here is a supervisor saying, earlier my work was counting and shouting. After the supervisor training, I realized my job is care and share. Just to give you some results of last 1 year, the project, just New Look factories. We did a total of 17, and this is the factory improvement project. And by that, in India, we've reduced absenteeism by 26%, worker turnover has gone down by 16%, and efficiency of a factory has gone up by 30%. When you say 30% of a factory, that's a significant amount of cost saving, which is what they then have to share back with the workers through different schemes and benefits. Then here is a quote from the financial inclusion side of the project, which says, this is the project where we open bank accounts for our workers. A lot of the workers in the garment industry are women. And when they get paid by cash, their husband take their money and they use it on alcohol, they use it on different things, and the women don't have any control over their own money which they earn. This project looked at that social issue, and often these workers they're not able to open bank accounts in countries because they don't have a minimum amount. So this project looks at opening bank accounts where their salary is paid through the bank, and they're able to transfer money to their families in a much safer way, and they're also able to save money because we teach them on financial literacy and so on. So here a worker is saying, I send money to my family every month. This used to take lots of time to reach my family, and the commission to be paid to the post office was also very high. But now the money reaches my family instantly, and the charges are very low. Here's a quote from Nish, who is an investment banker in London who started this project. This project works in partnership with different banks in India. So he says here, I'll just say this, the JioSansar program provides access to banking for factory workers. For many, this is the first time they have the opportunity to open a bank account. This not only provides security for their hard-earned salary, but it also gives a sense of pride and social inclusion to workers. For them, it's a societal thing also to be able to have a bank account. So it gives them a sense of pride. And lastly, it's not just about doing projects externally with our suppliers and factories, but also internally, how we do business at New Look, what decisions that we take which are going to impact all these factories and workers. Buying practices. How our buyers work with our factories has a huge impact on our workers. So here is a few example of when an order is booked and the delivery date is booked, and if a buyer is making changes, last-minute changes to the design, to the product, the fabric is already on the floor and the factory has to wait to, once again, make the changes. This doesn't push the delivery date is still the same, which means that the factory is under pressure to meet that same date, but the buyers are making these changes here. So we do a monthly training just for 8 buyers, a small group, half-a-day training for buyers and merchandisers and designers at New Look. The ethical trade team do this. We work with our buyers and make them understand. If you're making a small change where it's a double stitch on the pocket instead of a single stitch, do you really need to make this change? Is it going to change the product and design in a dramatic way that our customers are going to want this shirt because there are 2 lines? What impact it has on the factory, what impact it has on the workers. Workers will have excessive overtime to meet the delivery date. They'll be subcontracting. Workers will not even be allowed toilet breaks to meet the deadlines. So making our buyers understand that the role that they play in commercial decisions that they make. So we do this every month by training 8 buyers. So this is the overall program of what we've achieved so far. We have trained 121 factories across 6 countries on health and safety. We've delivered wage improvement for workers in 119 factories. We've trained supervisors and management in 129 factories. We also do training on labor rights, enabling workers to understand that they have rights and they can negotiate with their bosses. So we did that in 159 factories and trained 92,000 workers. Here's my email ID, subatra.v@newlook.com. So if you have any questions, please email me. I'm happy to share more information. You can go and look at newlookgroup.com for the entire sustainability report and different projects we are doing in different countries. There are a lot of downloadable PDFs for you to look at different case studies. And I will not be able to do all of this without my team. I have a team of 8 people. They're all based in China, India, UK, and Turkey. So they are the ones who are delivering these projects. You know, I often travel as well, visiting countries, but without these people, I wouldn't be able to deliver this strategy. And now I'm just going to show you that short film that I said we won the award. It's a film about a worker's life in Bangladesh. It tracks her life and what the project meant to her and what changes it made.
Bangladesh is one of the world's most densely populated countries, with its 156 million people crammed into a delta of rivers that empty into the Bay of Bengal. Roads and streets, shops and stores, bus stops and stations, every inch of the country is flowing with people. Bangladesh is making great strides to reduce poverty and population growth and improve health and education. Women are taking a leading role in these positive developments. Millions of women are entering the workforce, stitching clothes which are exported all over the world. Whilst their lives can be hard, for the first time these jobs are giving women more financial independence and more power in the household. The Bangladesh garment industry is the country's great success story. It attracts buyers from all over the world, contributing 10% of the country's GDP and 78% of export earnings. Its 5,240 factories employ 4 million workers directly, most of whom are women. It supports the livelihood of 25 million people, that's 16% of the population. These jobs can be hard and conditions can be below international standards. But the industry provides much-needed income for poor people. This film looks at how buyers and the industry together can maximize the positive impacts of the garment industry through increased wages, better conditions and more benefits. It tells the story of how New Look, together with many of its suppliers, including Far East Knitting and Dyeing, has made a real difference.
Started, we were doing kids wear, men's wear, but never into ladies fashion. Most of these customers didn't believe that Bangladesh can do ladies fashion. It is at that time that we started with a company called New Look. New Look gave us the opportunity or the breakthrough in Bangladesh to start doing ladies wear. We have been very, very successful. We are competing against Turkey, Greece and other people.
Previously, we had 4 hours of overtime per day, which we wanted to reduce, but it was quite impossible. New Look actually gave us a lot of support that what is the best way that we can reduce this overtime and at the same time that we do not lose our workers. At that point in time, instead of going top down, we actually went bottoms up. We started talking to our workers, we started talking to our helpers, that why they would like to work so many hours. So when we found out the reason New Look and us, we did a joint program to reduce the working hours. Basically, we started doing 12 hours pay and 10 hours of work. And we have been very, very successful in that.
আমি বাঁধন ফারিস প্রিন্টিং অ্যান্ড ডাইং ইন্ডাস্ট্রিজ লিমিটেডের গত 1 বছর ধরে সুইং অপারেটর হিসেবে নিয়োজিত আছি। আমার বাসা এখান থেকে 10 মিনিট দূরত্ব। এখানে আমি এবং আমার হাজবেন্ড এবং আমার বাচ্চা থাকি। আমি এখানে আসার আগে বাহির থেকে শুনে আসছি যে এই ফ্যাক্টরি অনেক সুযোগ সুবিধা আছে, তার ভেতরে লাঞ্চের খাবারটা এবং ডে কেয়ার সেন্টার, আবার অন্য জায়গার মতো গালিগালাজ হয় না। এটা আমাদের জন্য একটা সুবিধা। যেখানে চাকরি করতাম সেখানে অনেক গালিগালাজ পাওয়া হইতো কাজের সমস্যার জন্য, কিন্তু এখন এখানে এসে আমি সেটা পাই না। আর ওখানে গালিগালাজ হইলে যে কাজের সমস্যা হইলে যে আমাদেরকে বুঝাবে, এটা বুঝাইতো না, বরঞ্চ কাজের ভেতরে আমার মাইনে থেকে টাকা কেটে নিত, যেটার জন্য আমার মানসিকতা নষ্ট হতো, আমি কাজের কোনো কোয়ালিটি ঠিক রাখতে পারতাম না। জায়গাটা আমার ভীষণ প্রিয়, জায়গাটা খুব ভালো লাগে এবং এখানে আমরা যারা কাজ ভালো পারি তাদেরকে প্রমোশনের ব্যবস্থা আছে এবং যারা কাজ শেখার ইচ্ছুক, যে কাজটা পারি না সেটা শেখানোরও সুযোগ আছে। এই জায়গাটা আমার অনেক পছন্দ, শুধু আমার না, আমাদের ওয়ার্কারের সবার পছন্দ। এই জায়গাটা লাঞ্চ পরে এসে আমরা বসি, ঘন সবুজ অনেক ভালো লাগে, যেটা অন্যান্য ফ্যাক্টরিতে পাওয়া যায় না। আর বিশেষ করে মনের সব অশান্তি দূর হয়ে যায়, বিশেষ করে আমার। আর প্রতিনিয়ত এখানে বসেই আমি চিন্তা করি আমার ভবিষ্যৎ পরিকল্পনা, কিভাবে জীবনটাকে সাজাইতে পারবো। আমার বিয়ের পর আমি আমার শ্বশুর বাড়ি যাই, তারপরে আমার হাজবেন্ডের একার ইনকাম দিয়ে সংসার সচ্ছলভাবে চলে না, তাই দুইজনে ইনকাম করে সুন্দরভাবে চলার জন্য একটা স্বপ্ন নিয়ে আমি ঢাকায় আসি। এখানে আমি এবং আমার হাজবেন্ড চাকরি করাতে আমরা সচ্ছলভাবে চলতে পারছি, নিজের খরচ চালাইতে পারছি, সংসারের খরচ চালাইতে পারছি, রুম ভাড়া ইত্যাদি, আমার বাচ্চার খরচও চালাইতে পারছি এবং তার পাশাপাশি বাড়িতে 2,500 থেকে 3,000 টাকা দিতে পারছি, যাতে আমরাও খুশি তারাও খুশি। ছেলেকে নিয়ে আমার সব স্বপ্ন রিফাতকে নিয়ে, যাতে ওকে আমি সুন্দর স্কুলে লেখাপড়া করাইতে পারি, ভবিষ্যতে ওকে প্রতিষ্ঠিত করতে পারি। এছাড়া আমি এবং আমার হাজবেন্ড একে নিয়ে সব স্বপ্ন দেখি, আর এখানে থেকে এটা আমার সম্ভব, এটা আমি মনে করি। ছুটির দিনে যেটা আমি করি, কাপড় চোপড় ধোয়া, রুম পরিষ্কার করা, বাচ্চার দেখাশোনা, বাচ্চার সবকিছু ঠিক আছে কিনা, নিজে এবং আমার হাজবেন্ডকে সঙ্গে নিয়ে বাজার করি, একটু সময় পেলে আবার দূরে কোথাও যাই বেড়াইতে, যাতে আমি, আমার হাজবেন্ড এবং আমার বাচ্চা সবাই ভালো থাকি। সংসার জীবনে আমি অনেক সুখী এই ব্যাপারে, যেমন আমি আর আমার হাজবেন্ড দুজন চাকরিরত অবস্থায় আমি আমার ছেলেকে চাইল্ড কেয়ারে রাখতে পারি, নিশ্চিন্তে কাজ করতে পারি, এই ব্যাপারে আমার কোনো চিন্তা হয় না। নির্দিষ্ট সময় বাসায় আসতে পারি, বাসায় এসে স্বামী সন্তানকে সংসারের সময় দিতে পারি, অল্প সময়ে আমি আমার বেশি আয় করতে পারি, এই আয় নিয়েও চিন্তা হয় না। এর চেয়ে সুখের কি হতে পারে? আমি অনেক সুখী আছি।
I joined New Look because I like to work for a company which does business in the right way. My main work is to help suppliers and the factories to meet the New Look standard. To achieve our goals, I talk to the workers and the management of the factories. After I get their feedback, I consult with the management and try to solve these issues. I develop the factories by performing assessments, regular workers training, yearly management training, and help factories to set up for effective WPC. We also have a special project called RACS and FIB VBW. In those projects, we reduce the working hours, migration and absenteeism, but also give them production incentives and attendance bonuses. We do this so that the workers can increase their productivity and efficiency and earn more within the limited working time. So I feel very proud to work with New Look because I think they are doing business in the right way.